All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to the Northwest EcoBuilding Guild's education event. I'm just going to make sure our event is recorded this evening. Just give me one moment. Great, and it looks like we are good. Welcome. Tonight's education event is Building for Inclusivity. We have a wonderful lineup of some great guest speakers this evening that I'm super excited to share with you all. We'll go ahead and get started with a couple announcements. Please try and keep your microphones muted. I'll be posting some information in the chat, and reach out if you experience any technical difficulties. My email address is in the chat, and I'm happy to help anyone out throughout this evening. All right. Let me go ahead and enable closed captions in just one moment. There we go. Okay, captions should be enabled. And great, I think we are good. If folks need access to that, I can send you a screenshot on where to locate that in Zoom. We'll go ahead and get started. First and foremost, we'd like to provide a land acknowledgement. The Northwest EcoBuilding Guild acknowledges that we work on the unceded traditional land of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, original stewards of the land past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. We welcome you all to learn about the traditional indigenous lands you live on by visiting Native Lands website, which is posted in the chat. You can also access the Native Lands website on this QR code as well. I'm Nina Olivier. Welcome. Good evening. I am an education volunteer at the Northwest EcoBuilding Guild, a 501c3 nonprofit. And welcome. This event is being recorded. Please try and keep your microphone muted during the presentations. There will be time after each presentation this evening for a brief question and answer session. And that's when we welcome you all to unmute yourselves. And if you feel comfortable, come on camera, say hello to speakers, ask your questions, or if you're doing what I do a lot, doing multiple things at once and just want to post your question in the chat, please feel free to do so. Great. I'm just monitoring the chat as well. A couple of things came up and we'll go ahead and address some questions that came up in the chat. If you have any specific logistical questions or challenges, please feel free to email me. My email's there as well as in the chat. And welcome. We're really happy and excited to have you all this evening on a really important topic. To kick us off this evening, I'd like to start with some sponsor highlights. And we're lucky tonight, Pathway Design and Construction is not only a sponsor this evening, but we also have a wonderful speaker and president here tonight with us. Paul, we're really excited to have you. I'd like to thank Pathway Design and Construction for being a dedicated sponsor to the Northwest EcoBuilding Guild's programs and events. Pathway creates beautiful, intelligently designed living spaces for discerning homeowners in the greater Puget Sound area. They were founded in 2008 and are now boasting a team of well over 100 years of combined experience in a full-service remodeling firm that uses sustainable, efficient processes and materials to craft healthy homes that enhance the lives of their clients. Led by brothers Paul and Mike Kokarhook, Pathway is recognized as certified builder by the Building Industry Association of Washington. This requires a continued commitment to quality and demonstrated ability to deliver exceptional results. Their firm and team members have earned an array of awards from BIAW, Master Builders Association, Home Builder Digest, Pro Remodeler, and others. They've also been consistently recognized as a Guild Master with the highest distinction by Guild Quality for service excellence. Most important than accolades, however, is Pathway's mission and vision, which ultimately extends beyond designing and building the places where folks live, work, and play. But they believe that they have the ability to protect our planet for future generations, both as professionals and individuals. Welcome, Pathway Design and Construction, and thank you for sponsoring this evening's event. I'd also like to highlight another sponsor this evening and provide a huge thank you to King County Green Tools. The King County Green Tools program is designed to help all King County stakeholders green their built environment while addressing critical environmental issues such as global warming, habitat restoration, solid waste reduction, and community planning. Green Tools provides technical assistance, hands-on training, and policy development through community partnerships in public and private sectors. Be sure to check out their documents and resource links pages for a variety of tools on green building topics. So thank you, King County Green Tools, for sponsoring this evening's event. And lastly, thank you, 475 High Performance Building Supply. 475 has a passion for building science, sustainable material use, and passive house, for protecting the environment and making the world a better place. Consequently, 475's mission is to supply essential materials, building components, and knowledge that will lead a transformation of the North American construction industry toward making durable, high-performance passive house and zero-energy buildings. They excel because they offer best-in-class products with a highly specialized focus through peer-to-peer communication and launched on a business-to-business interface. They deliver their products in a timely manner from centrally located warehouses through stocking lumber yards regionally. They support with intense attention to customer service, building code recommendations, high growth thermal modeling, bountiful knowledge resources, and on-the-ground reps. Whether your next project is a new building, a retrofit, residential or commercial, a passive house, or just a very durable and comfortable building, they look forward to working with you on it. Thanks so much, 475. Lovely. So a couple of announcements. As we mentioned, the Northwest EcoBuilding Guild is a 501c3 nonprofit. We provide educational opportunities in a variety of green building topics. Couple of that we are really excited that are coming up here in July. We'll be having guest speakers from EcoThrive and other affordable housing organizations to discuss uncovering the housing crisis and what is being done about it. On August 28th, please feel free to join us in person. The location is still TBD, but I believe it will be at our usual Ravenna Park location for the Northwest EcoBuilding Guild picnic. And then September 25th, we'll have some guest speakers talking to us about proven techniques for buying and selling green homes. And then September 27th through the 29th is still being sorted, but we are going to be having a potential guild celebration and camp out. Should be a lot of fun. There is a survey that I have posted in the chat, and I'll resend that as well, along with all the information I have shared today, because there may have been some folks that have just joined. So not to worry, I'll resend that. But there is a survey in the chat if folks are interested in joining us for our celebration and camp out. We have had annual campouts before, and they're a lot of fun. Great way to network, be in nature, and get to know your fellow eco-builders. So the location is still, I believe, TBD or located in the survey. So check that out, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I know I'm really excited for it. And then lastly, I'd like to remind folks the Northwest EcoBuilding Guild is a member-driven, member-led, and member happened essentially organization. We could not do the programs and events without memberships and sponsorships. We highly recommend folks to check out our membership options, as well as the benefits and wonderful opportunities that come with the membership. And that includes member-only content, recordings of all of our webinars, workshops, trainings, including code webinars, understanding passive house. We also had a really in-depth embodied carbon tool training. Please check that out once you become a member, and you'll have access to all of those event replays. Also includes on-site hard hat tours, discounted, if not free, access to all of our upcoming events. You're featured on our Green Pages directory. You'll have access to technical expert forums and, of course, networking opportunities. Wonderful, and that leads me to introducing this evening's speakers. We have 4 amazing speakers tonight that I'm so excited to introduce. I'll first start with Paul Kukarhook, and I apologize, your name got cut off on the slide, but Paul Kukarhook is the president of Pathway Design and Construction. Welcome, Paul. Paul loves helping people make lasting changes to their homes, impacting not only their daily lives, but allowing for continual growth. And over more than 30 years in the construction business, he has shown a commitment to his growth, starting as a laborer, working for his grandfather, and becoming a general contractor himself, eventually launching his own business. Paul's longtime dedication to eco-friendly and healthy building practices has distinguished Pathway within the industry, and he has made ongoing education a core principle for his firm. As a certified aging in place specialist, Paul is passionate about serving the increasing population of Seattle area residents who want to remain in their homes for as long as possible. He is also a master certified green professional, certified graduate remodeler, a certified renovator, and previously completed passive house training for energy efficient building. A regular speaker at conferences across the country, Paul is active with the Master Builders Association and serves as an American Lung Association Master Home Environmentalist Volunteer. And he and his wife of 23 years live in Maple Valley, have a son in college. Welcome, Paul Kukarhook. It's so wonderful to have you here. Thank you for being here tonight. I'll go ahead and invite the others, or introduce the other speakers, and we'll pass the mic to you as our first speaker this evening. Super excited to also introduce Mandy West and Liana Namovic. Welcome to you both. Mandy and Liana are coming from us from the Disability Empowerment Center. Mandy, who lives with cerebral palsy and epilepsy as well and anxiety, received her master's from Antioch University in 2006. She has 16 years working in social services fields as a case manager, counselor, and volunteer community peer. Mandy attributes her emotional healing and wellness to the communities in which she is part of. She is passionate about walking with others on their healing journey, as well as modeling recovery and wellness. Liana is passionate about enabling individuals with disabilities to make informed decisions about their lives and futures. She has a doctorate in occupational therapy and appreciates the opportunity to work alongside her fellow disabled community within the independent living model. She enjoys introducing newly disabled individuals to the independent living model and the idea of a disability as a culture, not simply something to overcome. Welcome, Mandy and Liana. Liana, it's so wonderful to have you both here with us this evening. And then lastly, Eva Otto is the owner and a designated broker at Infinity Real Estate and Development and provides residential commercial real estate services in the greater Seattle area. Eva is a LEED accredited professional and an eco-broker specializing in green housing market. I love it. She earned her master's degree in environmental studies from the Evergreen State College. Eva works with a diverse group of clients, including traditional home buyers and sellers, land buyers, green builders, developers, and commercial tenants. In addition to her passion for real estate, Eva runs a development company that envisions restoring the balance between human communities and the natural world. Currently, Eva is the board president for the Pacific Bamboo Resources nonprofit, which promotes the use of bamboo for sustainable development. Eva is also a member of the International Living Future Institute, the Commercial Brokers Association, the Northwest EcoBuilding Guild, the Multiple Listing Service, and the Women's Network for a Sustainable Future. Welcome. Thank you so much, speakers, for joining us this evening. And with that, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And I'd like to give a huge warm welcome to Paul Kukarhook. Welcome from Pathway Design and Construction. We're super honored and happy to have you. And you should have screen sharing abilities if needed. If there's anything else, let me know how I can help.
Great. How much time do we have?
Um,
How much time do you
25,
want me to speak? I don't
yeah,
want to, so
25 to 30 minutes, 25-ish minutes is great. Yeah. And then that way we
okay.
have some time after for folks to ask questions.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Thanks. All right. Well, I'm gonna share a presentation with you. It it's more encompassing than just universal design. It talks about health and that kind of thing. But I'll walk through that, and there's probably parts of it I'll skip over because I think it's a bigger picture presentation than I typically do. So I'll go through that, and then I'm going to pull in other pieces too of like some photos of some jobs that we've done, and I'll talk about the universal design and aging in place aspects of those as well. All right.
Looks good, Paul. Great.
Okay, great. All right, so yeah, so I had my introduction. This is my family here, and it's kind of one of the big reasons why I do what I do on a daily basis. And I always talk to our homeowners about, like, you never know what's going to happen in your lives. And I think it's really important when you're thinking about a remodel that we think about it a little bit more encompassing than just, hey, I want a kitchen remodel, or hey, I want a bathroom remodel, because I think that there's things that can happen in our lives in the future that we're not planning on. A great example of this is my dad. My dad had a stroke several years ago. He shuffles his feet when he walks. That's an issue in their home. They have a 3-story home. Getting in and out of showers can be sometimes an issue for him as well. So they live in Spokane. Me being here in Seattle, being a contractor, it's difficult for me to help them. But there's a lot of things that we can do within our remodels to help make things easier in the future. So this is just a little video that we put together here. Yeah. So my name is Paul Coker. I'm the owner of Pathway Design and Construction. I started Pathway in 2008 with the idea that I really wanted to create healthy homes. How can we make the best living space for all of our homeowners? Some of the things that help set us apart are that we do truly focus on the health of the occupants.
We definitely had some important criteria that we wanted in a contractor. And unfortunately, my son, when he was a young baby, had been exposed to some lead dust because we live in a really, really old house, over 100 years old. So it was really critical for us to find a contractor that really took health and safety really, really important.
Back in 2007, we did a flip on a home. And at that point in time, the market was really focused on understanding the energy efficiencies. As we were looking at things, we're like, wow, we really have to distinguish ourselves from other homes on the market. How are we going to do that? I was introduced to the American Lung Association back in 2007. What I started understanding was what we were putting in our homes and what was actually in our homes, bringing, like furniture, those types of things, how it can truly have that negative impact on our homes.
They are extremely knowledgeable about the industry. They obviously have done this for quite a long time, but in particular in the niche of making sure that there are alternative options for sustainable materials, healthy materials.
Unfortunately, we are all getting older every day, every minute. So how can we, again, make the most of your investment by looking at the aging in place piece and putting things in that maybe will make that easier for you to continue to live in the home? And then thinking about universal design, that's another aspect. It's very much in tune with aging in place, but it's thinking a little bit more broad. So thinking about all ages, all abilities.
They really want to make sure that we had a project that we were really happy with at the end, because obviously there's a lot of personal connection to our space and they really understand that. And they want to make sure that we're really happy with it. When I get to see how happy they are in their homes and how they're using it and ultimately using it in the way that we had discussed, or even in ways that's been adapted over the years, because it's so easy in some cases just to say, well, maybe we tear the house down. Well, let's rethink about that, and how can we really reuse the space in a way that makes the most sense. Yes, super fulfilling.
All right, so this is my team. We have a very broad range of education and life experience that we bring. And I think that's really important when we're thinking about like how we want to attack different projects and make the most for each of our homeowners, because they're all coming from different experiences that they've had in their lives and can bring things that benefit the clients along the way. So yeah, so when you're thinking about like your project just in general, I think it's really important to think about what your needs are. And I think that's probably the top priority, and then what your wants are for the and then thinking about how much you want to invest in your project, because I think both the needs and the wants definitely play a role in how much you want to invest in the project. So what am I not thinking about? I think some of the things that are really important are do you have allergy or asthma or other health conditions? And I think even that's just potentially the occupants of the home, but also if there are other health conditions, or I've had clients come to me and say, hey, I have a friend who's in a wheelchair, and I want her to feel comfortable when she comes to my home. And how can we make our home a safe space for her? And one that she wants to be in. So I think that's very cool that some people are really thinking along those lines to how they can make their family and friends comfortable in their homes as well. So how do you want to feel in your space? I think that's very important as well. You'll notice in both of these pictures too, we have a lot of natural light coming in. And I think that's really important when we think about how we want to interact within our spaces as well. So yeah, this was kind of a cool little feature with Anna and Eric here, where Eric is a musician, Anna's a woodworker, and she didn't want that dust to get into his equipment, but we were able to provide those two spaces for them to be together, but actually be apart as well. And then how long do you plan on living in your home? So I think that's always an important piece when we're thinking about projects. All right, so I'm gonna skip over that piece. So yeah, this was a basement garage remodel that we did. This was actually Anna and Eric's that I just showed you. And it was a dirty old garage that we turned into a space that they could now be very comfortable in. So there's accessibility from the outside into this space. Obviously, if we're thinking about aging in place or universal design, spiral staircases aren't always the best option. This was the only option in this particular case for this remodel. But yeah, there is accessibility from the exterior to both levels. Yeah, so this dirty, when I say dirty, it was really musty and nasty in there. The homeowners were sniffling and always very congested. We ended up finding out there was moisture coming in. These windows here, we have these really large windows. They called me in a panic, or I'm sorry, these really small windows up here in the basement. They called me in a panic while I was on my way to San Diego for spring break. We had a downpour here in Seattle, and they're like, oh my gosh, our window wells are filling up with water. And it was like a fish tank, and all that water was pouring into their basements because it was some stuff on the outside of the house was causing issues. But when we talk about adaptability, this is really cool. I don't have a photo of this, but this is their young daughter, who was, I think 2 at the time of the remodel. As she's grown up in this space, they've adapted this space to her. And this was her play area, and it's been growing with her, which is really cool. They had like a ninja course in here the last time I was there. So I think it's really awesome to see how people are adapting their spaces and making it a space that they all want to be in. Different materials, yeah. So when we're thinking about health, or even I guess aging in place or universal design too, what are the types of flooring materials that we want to put into our spaces? That's very important for all of that. Engineered floors can have multiple benefits. There are particular flooring materials on the market that are sealed with linseed oil. That linseed oil allows the wood to act similar to it does out in nature. So we know trees can help remove toxins from the air. these floors can also do that as well. So they breathe very similar to a tree does, and it's kind of cool when we think about the health aspect of what we're putting into our homes. Different types of insulation are very cool as well. So sheep's wool can also help remove toxins from the home. It's also very sustainable. Hemp wool is another option that we like using a lot if we can on projects. When we're thinking about aging in place or universal design as well, very low maintenance. I love low maintenance. Even if you're not thinking about that, I think low maintenance is amazing. So quartz surfaces, solid surfaces, very easy to clean and maintain. Love working with those types of products. Millwork. So millwork in and of itself, trim work, if it's glued together, if it has paint or like primers on it, those types of things can have negative impacts on the occupants of the home. So we really, when we're looking at our projects, we're introducing products that are going to actually be a benefit to the home, as well as to my employees who are working on the jobs. The idea is not to make them sick just because of an occupation that they have. There's a lot of information out there that can, from a health standpoint, that can give us information into the products that we're putting into our homes. So if anybody's interested in this, I can talk to you more about that. And then dust remodeling and dust kind of go hand in hand. How can we actually minimize that impact on all the occupants is, I think, really important, especially if you have somebody that has a health condition. We don't want to introduce things that are going to make things worse for them. Yeah, so that our air in our homes is actually 5 to 8 times worse than it probably should be. So we definitely want to try to minimize the impacts on the occupants, especially if we're talking about young kids too. So the universal design piece, as I like to think about it, is really thinking about all ages and how we can minimize those impacts on everybody. Very easy to do, creating separate workspaces and using negative air machines on our projects. So this is, yeah, that play space that I showed you in the basement. Workout room for mom and dad. They actually have locking doors on here, so mom wanted a space that she could go in and do her yoga and be away from everybody and have nobody bother her. Lots of natural light. I think that's always key in any remodel that we're doing. How can we maximize the amount of light? So, our spaces can, with lack of natural light, can have negative impacts on all of us. And then in this case, they did a spa-like bathroom as well. This doesn't quite show in this photo, but this is a flush entry shower that we were able to achieve here in this basement as well. All right, so this is my lab. I guess this is my testing ground for myself. This is my home. This office space here on the left. This was my COVID project when my wife told me I had to get out of the house. And so this is the place that I go. I feel safe. It's where I am right now. Everything in here is products that we test on all of our projects. Really wanted to make it a space that I felt good about being in, and I could test products so I could talk to our homeowners about different things as well. But this is a space that I work out in, as well as actually do my work daily. Biophilia, I think that this kind of plays a role in all of this as well. I know we've had presentations on biophilia, so I'm not going to get too deep into it, but it's definitely something that I like to introduce into our projects. Natural light, plants, those types of things I think can have really can be beneficial for all the occupants of the homes. All right, so aging in place. Yeah, so creating projects with the intent and the future in mind. So a few aging in place practices include fully accessible home bathrooms with curbless showers, wet rooms, handheld shower heads, well-placed grab bars, accessible sinks in the kitchen and bath, and easily accessible appliances. So when we think about aging in place, it's it can kind of run the gamut here at what we can achieve. This picture here on the left, this was for clients who had recently retired. You'll see here at the shower, we do have a threshold. It's about an inch and a half high. We were not able to achieve going any lower because there was just too much in the ceiling of the kitchen below. But we minimize that threshold. And I think that's really important, is trying to do as much as you possibly can to make things easier for the occupants. This bathroom here in the middle, and then on the right, this is my kid's bathroom, nicest bathroom in our house. And this was designed on my part with universal design in place, knowing that my parents and my wife's parents were getting older. How can we have a space, if they weren't able to do stairs anymore, how can we make a space that they could feel that they could come and visit and be comfortable in? So some of the things that we did in here, you'll see grab bars in here, flush entry shower, handheld shower head. The vanity pieces, this thinking about who's going to be using this bathroom. So this is my kid's bathroom. My son is he's a mess with the shower. You'll notice that there's no shower door on here. Water gets out of the shower. It doesn't get out when my daughter showers, just when my son showers. So I didn't want this to be something that was going to cause issues in the long run for the vanity. So I wanted to make it easy to clean. So there's a kind of that low maintenance, easy maintenance piece. The toilet, so we did a wall hung toilet, again, getting that toilet off the ground, easy to clean around. We've done some preparation for some things as well. Put an outlet in here if it needs to, if we want to put a bidet's toilet seat in, it's easily adapted right now in the future, so it makes things really easy. Let's see, I don't think, yeah, I'll show you some other photos of this bathroom and kind of what we did behind the walls as well. This shower here on the right, so this was a project that we did for a double amputee, and they wouldn't let her home from the hospital until her home was safe. And I think that's really an important message, is like when we're thinking about your remodel, like, you never know what's going to happen in your life. And unfortunately for her, she had a medical issue and she lost both her legs, and it was during COVID. And so it was a mess just in and of itself because of that. But also her house was not ready to come home, and there was a lot that needed to be done to make it accessible for her. So we did it as quickly and diligently as we could. This particular shower surround actually has plywood embedded in it. It's an acrylic surround, so that the pan itself and the walls of the shower have a plywood embedded in them. So now we can put grab bars wherever we want in that shower space. It's awesome. We don't have to do a lot of preparation and foresight on the front end, especially when you have somebody that maybe has a progressive disease. So that we don't know what it's going to be like 2, 3, 4 years down the road. Okay, yeah, so the picture here on the left, so this is my kid's bathroom. So we put backing in, added 3/4 inch plywood and some 2x material wherever we needed it, but the backing's in there so we can put grab bars almost wherever we want. It's placed in locations that we would put grab bars. So we don't necessarily need a grab bar at the floor, so there's no reason to have that added expense in this case. See here, this is that bathroom I was just showing you with the double amputee. We added some additional backing here. These are for the grab bars coming off the toilet. So I think that's a big piece too. So whether you're healthy or not, if you're opening up walls, put backing in if you can. Just makes life easier in the future. I can't tell you how many calls I get from somebody saying, hey, my husband had a stroke, my wife had a stroke. They can't come home till the shower's safe. Well, if that was there, it's really easy to add a grab bar. Yeah, aging in place bathroom. So on this particular project, we widened this door. It's now a 4-foot clear opening. And this was a really interesting project for us. So this was, the homeowners came to us and they said, hey, we want to do a project that we can move into at some point, right? We're healthy, we're in our 80s, but we know there's going to be health conditions at some point in the future, and we want to continue to stay in our home. We love it. So how can we do that? So with that in mind, this is what we designed. We designed a vanity space that could have a roll-up wheelchair to it, flush entry shower. You'll see there's a linear drain here next to the walls. These are quartzite wall panels. So again, really, really easy maintenance. And if water were to get out, this is actually like a wet room in here. So if water gets out of the shower and rolls towards the baseboards or whatever, it's completely encapsulated unless it gets to the door, in which case it'll get out onto the wood floors. See the faucet here has a touch sensor on it, as well as it also has a light which will tell them if they, so what happens a lot of times is as you get older, you lose sensitivity in your hands for temperature. So that, and that light on the faucet will actually tell you if it's hot or cold or warm, so you're not scolding yourself. This mirror was added in and it was put at an angle. So again, it was easily viewed if you were ever in a wheelchair. You see the shower curtain here too. So this is kind of like a hospital shower curtain, helps keep the water out of the rest of the bathroom, but provides nice, easy accessibility into the space. So this is that vanity there. Let's see, yeah, I'll tilt it, yeah. So then we'll have a bidet toilet seat in this one as well. Whoops. So easily accessible flush mechanisms. So I mentioned that this was an interesting project for us because, and the reason for that is like 2 weeks after we finished this project, the homeowner, the husband had issues with his kidneys. And so he was in the hospital and he was able to come home as soon as he was ready to come home because he was able to do his treatments here in this bathroom. And it was a safe space for him to get in and out of, and they had easy accessibility into the home. So this was, I don't know, they just had some foresight as to what might their future be, and it's kind of cool to actually see what we did actually help them almost immediately. All right, so when we're thinking about aging in place in kitchens, we want to look at layering light. So colors of light, you know, there's lots of different accessories that are available, Amazon, Alexa, or Siri or something, where you can dial in the colors of your light or turn lights off and on. And I love being able to layer the light in kitchen spaces so that you can have working areas as well as just ambience. Yeah. So yeah, touch sensor faucet. Let's see, this one you actually can see, I think this will turn red here. Yeah, it's starting to turn purple, and you can kind of see what it does when it's actually going from cold to hot. So it's very, very visual, which is pretty cool. Induction cooktops, love induction cooktops. These are great, especially if you have parents that are living with you that are aging. I've had clients that have parents with dementia who will touch anything and everything. Also young kids, right? Like induction cooktops are not going to scold you if you touch them. So it's a great option. Satin finish on countertops. So as we age, our eyes will deteriorate. And our sight will deteriorate. And so not having shiny surfaces on countertops is very beneficial, especially when you have lights overhead, like can lights that would be bouncing back up. So we really want to try to mute some of the finishes in the spaces. And then appliance lifts in kitchens. I still have clients who are 80, 90 years old who love to bake. And they love their KitchenAid mixer, but they don't always want it on the countertop. And these are like little hydraulic lifts that they can pull it out, push it back down, super easy. So there's a lot of accessories that are available out there that can make things easier for cooks in the kitchen. All right, so yeah, I'll go through these. So materials we choose for our homes have impact on the health of the occupants for better or worse. There's lots of resources that are available out there. It is possible for you to live in your remodel live in your home during a remodel, whether you're sick or not. I think that there's a lot of things that we can do to help with that. And then remodeling with wellness in mind can encourage a better lifestyle for you and your family. And then aging in place can be beautiful. I think that's one piece I didn't touch on, but I hope you got that from some of the photos that we have. It doesn't have to be industrial. It can absolutely be beautiful and very adaptable. All right, so that's that. am I doing okay on time?
Yeah, you have a couple minutes left.
Couple
if
more
you
minutes,
wanna-
okay.
Yeah,
All right, so let me pull up this other.
that was great. Thank you, Paul.
Sorry, oh, here. All right, so. Okay, so bathrooms. I want aging in place. Okay, so this is that bathroom I was talking about. It's a pocket door, which is, can slide in, which is really cool. You'll notice the handle here too on the outside. I didn't touch on this, but it makes it really easy to grip or grab when you're opening and closing it. This is the bathroom. Oh, this is where we started with the bathroom too, just to give you a sense of kind of this is where we started and then where we ended up. So again, another picture of the bathroom, looking into the bathroom. This was the old toilet area, and now we flipped it to the other side of the bathroom. And then, yeah, just a photo there. The kids' bathroom. Let's see, talked about the toilet already, the vanity. Okay. We touched on all that. The one thing too here in this bathroom too, like my daughter was really young when we did this bathroom, and she was able to put the stool, a little step stool in, so she could use the water and not make a mess and slide the stool right underneath the vanity. So that worked really well. Wasn't in the way for anybody. All right. I will stop my sharing. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Paul. Those last photographs of the bathroom were wonderful. Thank you for sharing. That was really awesome presentation. I'll open it up to folks now for questions. Before we get into questions for Paul, I have a quick announcement. For closed captions, we are recording this event, and I was just told that it's going to be made available in the link to the recording. So I do apologize. It is not available live at the moment. I'm trying to workshop that and figure out why. So apologies for folks needing live captions. However, the recording of this event will include captions that I will be sending out in a week after tonight. So just wanted to add that little announcement. Questions for Paul. Thank you so much, Paul. It's so wonderful to have you. Thank you for sponsoring this event and for speaking.
Yep.
We'll open it up to the audience if anyone has any questions for Paul, and I will be monitoring the chat for any questions. Great. Perhaps I can get us started. Paul, you had, oh, and Megan will have a question incoming, but I'll get us started. You mentioned the countertops. Do you have specific material or composite type of countertops you would recommend to avoid that reflection problem?
Yeah.
That was something I
Yeah.
made note of. I thought was interesting.
Corian, like you hear Corian and it sounds old. Corian is a great option. They do have some more updated colors and doesn't necessarily look like your grandma's composite countertop kitchen much anymore. That's an option. There's also quartz countertops, granites, those types of things. They can do satin finishes. On those, they have different names for all of it, but basically they can do like a satin finish on it. The one thing with the satin finishes though, is that they are a little bit harder to clean. You will get like water ring stains sometimes, those kinds of things on it. So it's kind of it's a give or take with some of these materials.
Great, thank you. Looks like we had a question posted in the chat from Roy. When designing accessible elements in an existing home, are there any reoccurring challenges that you've worked to overcome?
Well, yeah, I think when we're remodeling, right, every home is always different. If we're thinking about accessibility into spaces, how do we have the foresight to understand like what could happen? Right? I met with a homeowner yesterday and she's like, oh, we can split this bathroom in two and I can get 2 bathrooms out of it. And I want to think about aging in place, and I want to think about, well, if I'm in a wheelchair or a walker. And the bathroom itself was big, but once we cut that bathroom in half and create 2 bathrooms out of it, now we've shrunk it and we don't have turn radiuses for wheelchairs, those types of things. So it's and then in that case, we got to start looking at how do we look at different pieces of the home, maybe take a bedroom and expand it to a bedroom for a bathroom. And I think there's some opportunity for that. And I know you potentially lose a bedroom as if you're looking at resale, but I think that there's some other opportunity that hopefully Eva might be able to talk about as well from the real estate end of things.
Great, thank you. And then Pat asked, is there any chance you could share the costs of some of these remodels? And I know they vary widely, but just curious.
Yeah, most of these I would say deem like master bathroom type remodels. Those are usually like I don't see those less than 150,000, and they go up from there.
Great. And then lastly, Megan asked in the chat, have you had any design requests to remodel to make accommodations for also in-home caregivers?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Yes, we have. So we think about that a lot when we're, especially if I have a single person, right? We've talked about like, okay, well, if I have a caretaker, where are they going to live? Do we need to remodel a basement and put a bedroom and a bathroom in a basement so that they can live down there while I live up on the main floor of my home? Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because I think it's something to think about, because yes, you're going to remodel your home to make it accessible, but are you going to need help, and who's going to do that help if you don't have the family to help along with it?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and stop there for questions because I want to be mindful of the other speakers and your time. But it looks like one other question came in. If you're able to answer it in the chat, great. If not, we'll come back to that last question. Paul, a huge round of applause. Thank you so much again for joining us this evening and for sponsoring tonight's event. That was a really great presentation. I am super excited to now pass it on to our folks from the Disability Empowerment Center. I'll go ahead and pass the mic as well as the screen if you'd like to share anything to Leanna and Mandy. Welcome to tonight's event. Thanks for speaking.
Give me 30 seconds to make sure that I've got the PowerPoint showed up at the right way. Okay. This one. Okay, can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yes, that looks great. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Yes. So hi everyone. I'm Leanna. I'm presenting with Mandy, and we are from the Disability Empowerment Center. We're going to be talking about a couple different things, a bit of our work, a bit of some feedback that we've received from community members with disabilities on their experiences with the built environment, and a little bit of how we might be of assistance to people that you're working with. Oh, there we go. So Who are we? I'm Leanna. I'm the programs director at Disability Empowerment Center. I have a background in occupational therapy. I use she, her pronouns, and I am disabled. I'm going to let Mandy introduce herself.
Hi, yes, I am Mandy. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm an independent living specialist. And just to let you know what I look like, I have brown short hair. I'm wearing, although you probably can't see it, a gray shirt. And did I say I go by she, her pronouns? Yes, I did. Okay, yes, nice to meet you all.
And I forgot my image description. Sorry, I am a person with short brown hair, female appearing. We try to include image descriptions of what the speakers look like for anybody who has visual impairment so that they know who's talking. So why is this work important? We're all here because we know that inclusive design is something that we should be focusing on, but who exactly is it impacting? 1 billion people worldwide live with some form of a disability. Nearly everyone is likely to experience a disability at some point in their life. And in our area in King County, 1 in 5 people in our region has a disability. A little bit on disability etiquette or some language. This was a question we had from the organizers to include since we've got this background. You might have noticed when Mandy and I introduced ourselves, I said that I am disabled and Mandy said that she has a disability. That's an example of person first versus identity first language. People can have a lot of strong opinions on whether or not their disability is something that they want centered or decentered. The big takeaway, though, is that disability is not a dirty word. And so oftentimes you'll see euphemisms like differently abled, diverse abilities, handy-capable, special needs, suffers from, wheelchair bound. Different ways to say these things would be disability, 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 experiences, or a wheelchair user. So all great ways to not kind of put pity on a person. Worst comes to worst, don't assume, ask. If somebody corrects you, please don't take it as an attack. Everybody's experience is a little bit different. So let's launch into our partnership working towards creating a more accessible East Side. So back in fall 2023, we were approached by City of Redmond and another nonprofit, East Side for All, to begin work on their comprehensive plan. If you're not sure what, or you don't know what a comprehensive plan is, every city develops a 30 to 50 year plan that updates building codes, decides how that they're going to expand the city, what things they're going to try and prioritize in the city. Seattle just published theirs for public comment in the first draft. Redmond is about to publish theirs for first draft public comment. So we held a specifically disability focused listening session between the City of Redmond and our organization to gather feedback from the disability community on what things they would like to see changed in their built environment. That looked a little bit at private spaces because some of the things that the City of Redmond is looking at is building code incentives and other ways to incentivize this inclusive design. But it mostly was looking at public spaces in ways that the private spaces can be integrated into the public. Some key takeaways from those conversations. Lighting was a big issue. I know Paul brought this up with increasing natural lighting in the home. Out in public spaces, there was definitely a request and need for better lighting and increasing higher contrast environments, especially as people are starting to age in place. There was a big push for adult changing rooms / single stall bathrooms with space for an attendant to assist with toileting. Again, something that Paul mentioned in terms of larger residential bathrooms, anticipating care needs as people grow and age. There's a request for improving wayfinding, specifically in signage for accessible entrances / features, having those in multiple formats, higher contrast. Another big one was access to transit and walkability of spaces. One of the big things that was coming up was when there is a residential area or residential space, and parts of the landscaping of the residential space do impinge on sidewalk accessibility, bus shelter accessibility, ability to read the signage on the bus shelter, all things to consider when you're designing the footprint of the general space. So we've been talking a lot about inclusive design, and you might say, oh, well, Leanna and Mandy, there's the ADA. That covers all aspects of accessibility, right? Unfortunately, the ADA, it does a lot, but it was written in the 90s, last updated in 2008. And so there's been a lot of advances and changes in what kind of mobility devices individuals are using, where people are living, what people are wanting to access. So the ADA is good, but it could certainly be better. We learned in our space, so we're located in a building called the Together Center in Redmond, which has, it's a really innovative space. It has all nonprofits on the first floor and then all low income / inclusive housing on the 4 floors above. So that means it's mixed use. When we moved into the space, there was a ADA button for only the elevator vestibule for the apartments above. That's because according to the building codes for Redmond, you only need a button to enter into residential spaces. So those people who lived above couldn't get into our main lobby. People off the street couldn't get into our main lobby. On our entrance day, we had a couple of people show up using wheelchairs. The designers of the building did a phenomenal job putting in and integrating a ramp. However, the landscaping choices, while they were beautiful, obscured where the ramp was and made it such that people couldn't find it and instead left without participating in the opening ceremonies. So there's a lot of interesting considerations to take into place when you're incorporating that biophilic design of how are the plants going to grow, how is this space going to age in terms of continuing to be inclusive and accessible, and just ensuring that that is covered. One other thing to note when you're developing mixed use spaces, only interior signage is covered by the ADA. So people walking in off the street, there's no need for putting a sign. Well, according to the ADA, there is no need for putting a sign to be able to find the ramp to get into the building or to be able to find the door that has the accessible button. This is something that would be really great to see changed. So you might be asking yourself, Leanna, what happened before the ADA? What did people do? Back in the 1960s, this wonderful gentleman named Ed Roberts enrolled in UC Berkeley, and he was the first wheelchair user to do so. He noticed that streets weren't accessible. There were no curb cuts. There were no buttons to open doors. And he said, I would like to change that. He gained a group of all-power wheelchair users called the Rolling Quads, and together with their attendants, they decided to go out under the cover of darkness with a bag of concrete and start building their own wheelchair ramps. So it's just to say that even if you don't build it, people are going to take things into their own hands and find ways to make things accessible. So you might as well add it into the design preemptively so that it is beautiful, it is eco-friendly, and it is sustainable. People are going to make it fit for them, so you might as well integrate it at the beginning. I'm going to pass it over to Mandy for kind of why we exist.
Yeah, forgive me. I have a cat, emotional support animal, quote unquote, right now, who's biting me and demanding attention. I think he knows I'm about to speak. So if I am distracting, I'm sorry about that. All right. So, yeah, why do we exist? So as Liada was mentioning, before the 60s, there were a lot of barriers, and people were institutionalized, and there wasn't a lot of inclusivity, in any kind of public spaces. So people with disabilities had little autonomy and choice or choice, and a lot of discriminations, prejudices, misconceptions about people with disabilities. And of course, with that came obstacles to employment. Monica, stop it. Jeez. Anyway, yes, and so there's a lot of ableism, which if you have any questions about, we can talk more about that, and other unfair challenges. And next slide. How do I get to the next slide? Oh, so our model is unique. We are people with disabilities ourselves. Most of our staff and volunteers have disabilities. I like to say we have lived experience, and we are peers because we have lived experience, aka we have a peer-to-peer model. The people that we serve, we call them our participants, make all their own choices. So if you were to come to me and say, Mandy, I would like to be a participant, I ask you, okay, what do you need? And how would you like me to assist you? I'm not making any decision for the other person. I'm just there to help guide them through making a goal, telling them what our services are, giving the parameters in which we work, and then they get to choose how to customize their own program. So I think that pretty much spells out that slide. Yes, we are located in King County. We serve all people throughout King County, all ages and backgrounds. And excuse me, my cat is biting my hand off. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, disability to us is very broad. It's not just developmental disability. It's intellectual, sensory, neurological. I just say if you have a medical condition or just identify with any kind of functioning issue, that's considered disability in my book. And then we start seeing people at 14 years of age all the way through, as Leanna pointed out, 114. So as long as you are in need of services, our services are free, and we are there to assist as you would like us to be there for you. So I mentioned a little bit about the one-to-one peer support. That's I was describing that with our goal setting and stuff. If people want to learn skills, we can definitely do skill training, and that could be individualized too, like cooking, cleaning, taking the bus, any number of things. We offer community resources to people that they can use in tandem with our services, or sometimes we're not a good fit for someone, so we'll just give them a community resource and follow up and see how it works or worked with them. We are system changers, so we have gone to like Washington, D.C. to talk to the legislature about changing systems, especially that are not inclusive and don't take into account all the different situations that people come across. And of course, we also educate businesses on how to become more inclusive and accessible to people. And then our contact is our website, disabilityempowerment.org. Our main phone number is, as you can see, 866-545-7055. We also have like an info@disabilityempowerment.org email. So if you ever wanted to learn more, you could always email us, or also on our website, we have an e-newsletter that you can subscribe to. Lastly, we are in Seattle, Redmond, as Leanna mentioned, at the Together Center, and we have another office in Auburn. So yes, connect to us through our website. We have a Facebook page, LinkedIn, and we just recently started up an Instagram. I mentioned our newsletter. We always welcome donations. We're working towards opening up volunteer positions, so you can always check in with us later about what types of ways in which you could volunteer would be. Board membership is another important aspect of our work, and sharing your story in your successes, your wins, strengths, and really focusing on the empowerment part of it. Empowerment, choice, and autonomy is our big values in our agency. So, and here's our information. These are direct lines. So mine is 425-998-5837. Leanna is 206-445-1736 if you want to get us directly. Otherwise, it's that main line number that was mentioned before. So, any questions?
Thank you so much, Leanna and Mandy. It's a fantastic presentation. I'll open it up to the audience for questions. Yeah. Feel free to post in the chat or come off mute, come on camera, whatever you're most comfortable with.
Oh, no.
We have
Yeah, anyone want to take that?
Yeah, definitely. So great question, Megan. So there are a couple different programs for homeowners who are under, I believe it's 50% area median income. One of them is Rebuilding Together Seattle, which they are always accepting volunteers, contractors, people who are willing to donate a bit of their time. One of my friends is an electrician, and her organization helped rewire part of somebody's bathroom. So they're somebody who will help pay for home renovations. There's also the Rampathon that happens once a year. That's also where a bunch of contractors come together and over the course of, I believe it's a weekend, try and build as many ramps as possible, which is pretty cool. There's also Northwest Access Fund, which can help pay for some smaller renovations, like if there's one specific change that needs to happen, but not the level of renovations that Paul does, unfortunately.
Linda.
I just wanted to ask, and thank you guys for being here. That was really a nice presentation. How often do the people that you work with have issues like the ones that can be resolved with the remodels or the things that have been suggested here? I think sometimes, just being in different spaces, do people you're with end up having to move more often, or do they try to remodel, or do they move in with other people? What are the things that you run up against? Because I'm sure it's a frustrating time for people to do that, and it would be interesting to know the best way for people in this organization to be most helpful.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things or biggest barriers that we run into is affordable, accessible housing. So oftentimes, if you have a long-term chronic condition and you aren't able to work a traditional 9 to 5, being able to afford the accessible features that you might need is a huge barrier. In terms of affordable housing, like the Seattle Housing Authority or King County Housing Authority's public housing projects, they have to allocate a certain percentage of those homes to be quote unquote ADA accessible. That just means that the bathroom has a 0 step to entry shower, and that's pretty much it, and like no stairs. It doesn't mean that there are necessarily roll under countertops, any of the beautiful accessibility features that Paul talked about. So one of the big things that we would love to see is just a greater expansion of the inclusive design principles that Paul was talking about in the public housing programs.
So I also wanted to mention, as an independent living specialist, I get people calling about how could I modify my home so it is more accessible. And because there's a lot of people with income challenges, it's hard to, it's like you have to find, I think there's only one place I think I offer to people, Bridge Ministries, that has adaptive equipment and stuff. It really would be nice to have more options for people because, income and the financial burden is huge for most of the people that we see. So,
One other thing while you're talking about it, it makes me think is the percentage of people with that are differently abled that don't own and they're renting. So even if they transition from having a full-time job, they're renting. Now they need all of this different equipment. A
Right.
lot of it seems to be built in. I keep looking for ways, even for solar panels and different things for other, reasons, to not be something that you have to be a homeowner to get, something that can help a little bit with something. So just those kind of more portable changes that can be added to a regular place. I mean, is that difficult to find too?
It really depends on what the person's disabilities are. So as this is me putting on my OT hat, there are, those portable modifications like suction cup grab bars, the addition of changing out a shower head for a handheld shower head, and you can always swap it back. Changing out your smoke alarm from a audible one to a visual one if you're deaf. Those are the main easy fixers. They're not the most sustainable fixes in terms of suction cup grab bars. Eventually the suction cups will go bad, and that's an accident waiting to happen. The change outable handheld shower head, oftentimes that attachment is not the most secure, and so you'll get those leaks. The biggest thing that we would love to see is just an increase in apartments doing these retrofits. It would be a great thing to see a lot of this remodeling happening. The one nice thing about Rebuilding Together Seattle is that if you have a private landlord, you can ask your landlord to apply for the Rebuilding Together grant. However, that means that your landlord has to be at that 50% area median income, which is rarely the case. So that's a big issue.
And I wanted to add that when people live in subsidized housing, oftentimes there's a disconnect between what the landlord wants and what the resident needs, and they don't get the accommodations, or they don't get permission to get the accommodations they need, which makes it, as you were saying, really frustrating.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Lana and Mandy. I really appreciate it. I'll pause there. There was one more question that jumped in the chat, but I want to be mindful of everyone's time. And welcome our next speaker. I do want to thank you both so much for that wonderful presentation. Thank you for sharing the Disability Empowerment Center's work, best practices, strategies, the challenges you've been facing, or just the industry as a whole has been facing to address these needs. And thank you. It's just that was such a really great presentation. Appreciate you all being here. And we'll go ahead and if there's any other questions for Leanna and Mandy, please feel free to share in the chat. Keep them coming, and we'll have some time at the end of today's event for final questions for all speakers. And it is my pleasure now to welcome Eva Otto. Welcome this evening. Thank you so much for joining us as a speaker, and I'll go ahead and give you the floor. Thank you for coming tonight.
Yes, thank you so much for having me be a part of this discussion. I'm just going to take a few minutes. I don't have a presentation prepared, but I just wanted to maybe add a few thoughts. Again, my name is Eva Otto. I use she, her pronouns. I have shoulder length, dirty blonde hair and blue eyes, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you tonight. So thank you, Mandy and Leanne, for reminding us about so many important topics around disability, and Paul as well. I really learned a lot from your presentation. So I've been in the real estate field as a real estate broker for about 20 years, and my main focus has been sustainability. My deep passion for environmentalism and the earth naturally leads to care for people in their homes. And so sustainability and community implies inclusivity and potentially even universal design. When I first started out in real estate 20 years ago, we did not hear the conversation that we're hearing today, but I promise you that I hear it all over the place now, which I'm really heartened about. And I think historically, I heard someone else say this, we didn't really design for inclusivity or people with disabilities. I grew up in a very urban area in Philadelphia where everyone lived in a row home and it was just all stairs and packed in. And so when I came to Seattle and I was working, you know, in real estate and people said, I don't want to buy this townhome because there's too many stairs. I thought, wow, really? And my, you know, grandmother lives in a townhome and she's only got one bathroom and she's 83 and she walks up and down the stairs every day. So in some ways it can be good, but if anything were to happen, that that's no longer a reality. And so I have the privilege to work with not only homeowners, but also nonprofit organizations and even churches. And I hear over and over again people saying that this property is not accessible. Only able-bodied people can use this. And that voice is getting louder and louder. And people are making different decisions now about, okay, we need to sell this property or we need to redevelop it in order, because it no longer serves our community's purpose because it doesn't have accessibility. Only able bodies can walk up these stairs. And so a big part of the discussion has, for me, has been around stairs. And what I've seen is that there's really only one floor plan that provides for accessibility besides maybe a condominium building with an elevator, and that's a Rambler home. And so what I have seen a huge trend in desirability for Rambler homes, especially as the demographic, especially for the baby boomers, who are some of the largest purchasers of homes, changes. And you see more demand and more value for those homes. And recently I sold a very nice vacant lot in Briar to a builder who was going to build just a Rambler, and he was going to build a $2 million Rambler, but he said, this is the design that people want. So I can really appreciate that, because universal design is for everyone. People of all ages are going for that particular design. And when you can't have a Rambler, you see more and more people saying, how can I make my mother-in-law or my lower unit ADA accessible? Because a lot of times, Paul showed a house where there was a garage that came into the basement. And now people, if they're thinking business like Airbnb and mother-in-law, then they have to be thinking about ADA accessibility as well. And I see that very encouraging trend where people are saying, look, here, I can enter in through here, I can put a kitchen down here, and they can create a second ADA accessible unit. And so when there's another floor plan that we've seen emerge and become more common, which is to have a primary bedroom with a bathroom on the first floor. So a lot of people who are building now custom homes or looking for homes, they are looking for at least one primary bedroom and bathroom on the same level, so that they can have access to the kitchen and to the community spaces, because it doesn't, it's not great to just be in the basement, right? We need to figure out how to make sure that we can have a floor plan that works for the whole family, or if you have a family member that changes. And so when I think about the biggest, where can we start? How can we make big impacts? I do believe it starts with the design, and that you should really start early in the process. And I wanted to just give a quick case example of a developer who recently attempted to build a 32 unit apartment building, but not designed for inclusivity. And they began their permit process in 2017, and it's 2024, and they still don't have a permit. So that's 7 years that they chose to fight with the neighborhood instead of basically put in an elevator so that people who had disabilities didn't have to walk up 63 flights of stairs. And I'll share my screen and I'll show you the building, and I'll talk a little bit about why there was a community effort to ask to really try to work with the developer to create something that would work for the entire community. And we looked at this building. This building was an affordable housing building. Not technically, it was a developer who was doing market rate apartments, but the units were very small. They were 110 square feet. And there's no problem with that. We're in a very, dense and diverse neighborhood of housing types. The real problem was that I'll show you some photos, and we can talk about why the neighborhood was upset. So I'm going to share my screen. And first I wanted to show you this image of the street. And let's see. Sorry for all this. This image here is the exterior of the street. So you can see that there's a slope. You can see these houses are on a slope, and right here is a bus stop. And right here is the site of the proposed site for the apartment building. And there's a wonderful transit bus stop right here. This is a house that is using the space, the easement space, for a driveway to access their property. So we know that this space was available. Here are some access stairs to the building here. And here's the building that was designed. This is the front of the building. Notice that there's no front door on the building facing Fremont Avenue, which is a busy street, and where there's a lot of space at the bottom of the hill for trucks and different delivery packages to.
Beth, we're
Yeah.
still seeing the first photo of the street. I don't know if we're now supposed to be seeing the apartment building, but we're still looking at the first image of the street. I just wanted to let you know. Oh, there it is. Great. Perfect.
Yeah. So here's the front of the building. And you can see over here on the left-hand side is a set of stairs that is going down. You can't see the bottom of it because it's a very steep hill. And there are 63 stairs from the bottom of Fremont Avenue. So if you got off the bus and you were walking up to your apartment, you would walk up 63 stairs to access the apartment building. So we made 2 requests. One was we asked that they put an elevator in down to the street level and then put the front door on the street. And they said no, they didn't have to do that. Which was surprising. This is another, can you see the next image where you can kind of see the slope and the scope of the building? Or are you just seeing still that first page?
I can see it.
Okay, great. So you can see, so this area is the front of the building here. And then on the other side is the alleyway where they put the front door onto the alleyway. So there was no sidewalk for pedestrians, and they were forced to kind of be pushed out into an alleyway that then later connected to some other streets that they could access a sidewalk on, but there was no sidewalk that went to the end of the block. Here is another image of that alleyway front. So that's the front door. That is the pull-in space from the alleyway. And then finally, this is another side image of the staircase going down. And I think there were a lot of problems here. One, obviously, if you are not able-bodied, it's not that easy to climb 63 stairs to get to your home. And the argument for why they wouldn't put in the elevator was because it was too expensive. And there was another argument, which was, well, if we put in an elevator, then we have to redesign the units to be bigger for if we design ADA, we have to make the units bigger than this 110 square foot apartment that they had chosen. So they didn't really have a desire to make ADA units. It was going to ruin it was going to make their project not pencil, to have to put these designs in. And my problem with market rate developers, especially in this case, is because the plan is to put in a building, lease it up for 2 years, extract the maximum value from the community, and then sell the building and end up with a rate of return. You want to have a 1.78 IRR rate of return. That a lot of these developers are really focused not on livability and community, but on extracting profits and getting another project done. So this, in 2017, they filed for this permit. In 2018, we had one community meeting with the developer, and that was it. They wouldn't meet with us again. We tried from 2019 onward to work with the developer and request this elevator. There was another developer right around the corner who had a very similar steep slope, who worked with our community, who put in an elevator, and they are finishing up their building today. These guys still haven't got their permit because ultimately we filed a complaint. The community filed a complaint because the code, chapter 11 in the code, says you cannot have different and unequal access for disabled people. And that's what they were trying to do. And what was so disheartening and surprising to us was the city of Seattle was allowing them and saying, yes, we're going to give you this permit. Even though if you're an able-bodied person, you can walk down those 63 stairs and get to the bus stop. But if you're a disabled person and you had a wheelchair, or you were in crutches, or you couldn't get down the stairs, you had to walk literally 6 blocks to get to that same bus stop, because there's a steep slope and you can't just get down the next block on your wheelchair. You have to go over 2 blocks and get down a level place to be able to turn around and get on Fremont Avenue and get to the bus stop. So this was a situation where the developers chose not to work with the community and embrace the community, which was a little surprising because the architect was a green builder and a green community oriented. But architects don't drive the project, developers do, and they made a very strong decision just to ignore us and not work with us. And they finally, after we filed a complaint, wrote us a letter that was a threatening letter. Well, if you don't let us do this, we're just going to do affordable housing project here. And we all thought, great, that's wonderful, because that's what we would want, and this is apartments, so it's an affordable housing project anyway. But it felt like they were trying to threaten us, and with, we're going to go affordable instead of market rate, in order to try to get us to drop our complaints. And we wrote them a very nice letter and said, we really hope you do that project, and we really hope you make it accessible and inclusive for everyone, which includes putting an elevator in because of all those stairs. So I want to say that I don't know if this would have happened years ago. I want to say we need to put pressure on SDCI and the city to make sure that they don't let developers get away with designing this is an affordable housing model without inclusivity, because and I feel like there was just such outrage and demand for it that we should take heart in that, and we should know that communities have an impact, and we can say no to developments that are not inclusive. So I just really thank everyone for bringing this topic up and bringing it to the forefront, and just be inspired that this is really happening in real estate. And what I'm seeing in trending is that we're really moving towards a more inclusive built environment.
Thank you so much, Eva. I appreciate that. And I couldn't agree more. Thank you for sharing that case study, that story, your work, and yeah, and continued efforts for a more inclusive community. Thank you so much. Any questions for Eva? And also now, we're at the close of tonight's event. Please feel free to ask any questions of the other speakers who are all still on the line. Thank you again, Eva, for that great presentation. I'll pause, let folks post in the chat, come off mute, come on camera, whatever folks are comfortable with.
I had a question about whether, if you're looking at people buying houses or doing different things, are there people that have different abilities that, I don't know if they find each other or that find houses that work for them that may not, I mean, that are like co-owning or anything like that, that I know it's co-owners or getting together, co-buyers, but has it been like, it would be maybe easier for some people who have similar abilities to live in similar situations together and share the cost of that? I know people are sharing homes a little bit more these days, or, you know, when people are putting in, you know, like homeowners that are having difficulty holding on to their homes because of property taxes and different things, they have the accessory dwelling units. Do they set it up sometimes so that they can have people with that are differently abled take those spaces, or is it usually differently done?
Absolutely. And I am seeing now that you know, the zoning laws are changing, things are getting a little more densified. I'm seeing these micro retirement homes, like boarding houses with oftentimes an elevator. That there's there, in fact, I'm getting ready to, I have a community house of some clients who bought a house and created a boarding house, and there are 11 bedroom. And there's also a mother-in-law unit. And this is in high demand for kind of what you're talking about, people who want to age in place, maybe age together in a community and have a caretaker unit that can, so there's always a nurse 24/7 on call living in the unit. And in this case, with the house that I'm talking about, there's an elevator. So it's a perfect setup for kind of the next user, or the whoever, you know, especially any group that wants to be together in community. You know, there are 9 homes over here, and then there's the 2 bedrooms in the mother-in-law, and they can really be together, and they don't have to worry about the stairs going up and down. There's a level drive and walk in. They can get in and they can get to the elevator. It's not currently being used for that purpose, but I'm actually looking into, because they're getting ready to sell, how to make sure that this goes to a user that could really use this home. And trying to find that group, you know, I've been calling King County, or I'd love to connect with you at the disempowerment disability empowerment organization, because this would be a perfect house for that. And so I am seeing that a lot of folks that I see are getting older and aging in place. I just visited a client today. He's 87. Now we're friends. He bought a house a couple of years ago, and I was smiling and I was thinking about how there are absolutely no stairs in his house, not one. And when we bought the house, it was specifically because, you know, I didn't want him to trip and fall. And so he right at his door, there's no stairs. In his kitchens, there's no thresholds, although there might be something in his walk-in shower. But that's about his only step. And I really appreciate that. And that's why I think Ramblers are a little more valuable these days. Mandy, did you have a question?
All right. Well, it's more of a statement. Firstly, thank you so much, Eva. In your description of all of that, I could not help feeling disappointed with everything that, I just was, in fact, I wrote down, how can we collaborate with developers to get them to understand, the needs? Which I guess, well, you kind of answered it, it's really about showing up and putting pressure on the city to make changes. I wanted to address what you were saying about communal, Linda, were you talking about communal living? Because I mean, I know that there's community-based and communal living, and those could be different.
Not really.
Okay. But I wanted just to mention some, and Leanna, if chime in if you feel, if this, please chime in if necessary. There is so we advocate for independent living, which essentially is someone being able to be in the community and live on their own with care. So like as a caregiver coming over, or some resources that can show up at their home, and they have everything. Well, in an ideal world would be they would have everything accessible. And then I think there's a thin line between that and like living all together in like a one home with like a common kitchen and potentially a caregiver. So there's always this kind of thin line, like how do you navigate it, at least from my perspective. And then of course, sometimes people, the best thing is to have like an adult family home situation for accessibility reasons and other types of things.
So I have a question. I put it in the chat. If you've come across something like a design center that focuses on these issues, and I know it's probably not available, but is there like any kind of group that maybe does some discussion like this, but maybe more extensive on these design issues, and particularly is there any kind of special funding that you've come across that can help fund a project like this? While you're thinking about that, I currently work on some co-housing projects. And what I've noticed about the co-housing projects is they're willing to deal with less living space because most of the infrastructure is around common infrastructure. And as a result, it is only slightly more costly, depending on how you build it, of course. It can be only slightly more expensive. It's not yet on par with conventional housing, but it can be within reach of frankly, a lot more people, depending on how you design it. The apartment concept actually can work, but usually the apartments don't really think about accessibility.
Mhm.
I guess I would like to chime in. I actually went through the co-buy process with a group of my friends. And we all have our various disabilities. And one of the big things that we were looking for was a home that was accessible. I mean, we're young now, but thinking about the future, of like, if people do get sicker or anything like that, how can we make this space continue to suit us? And I do have to say the co-buy process is something that I would love to see made more mainstream, because it has been a game changer in terms of being able to find an affordable and accessible home.
Yeah, that is and Eva, I think you first pointed that out to me several years ago about the co-buy process. The question that I have about the co-buy process is that if any one of the co-buyers leaves, then the whole thing needs to be refinanced. And so that's a problem. I'm currently hoping that we can do more testing around housing co-ops, because that used to be well funded before, and then through the 70s, the federal government backed away from it. And the current housing co-ops in New York still get funding, because they got to do maintenance and all of that. So um, I'm looking into how we could extend that to like new projects. And there's another company in Seattle called Frolic. They've done quite a bit of work in that area, but they're not focused on ADA or universal design. I think they want to, but it's not a focus. That's why I'm trying to think, is there a group that is actually focused on this? And by the way, Liana and
Mandy?
thanks for the Mandy, thank you. I appreciate those resources that you gave me, because it reminded me of the resource at USC's Gerontology Center, where they actually do a lot of writing on accessibility for housing. And I think that could be a good resource for someone that was interested in the area. But I was thinking of something that would attract more like conventional developers that want a new like niche market that has some funding support, and maybe even apply that co-housing or co-living model like the apartments, because that would bring down the cost, the accessibility, financial accessibility, but then you could focus those funds on the infrastructure more than just this large, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom units.
Pat, you mentioned the co-ops, and I have friends, and I looked at Silver Glen and Bellevue. It's the only one around. My parents in Minnesota had, the co-ops, and with, having the companies, they have a board, they take care of all of those things, and it's really, really nice. Like you said, New York has a lot, the Midwest does too, but we don't have a lot of that here. And at Silver Glen, they also have a certain number that are for affordable housing and different things, and it's actually built with a lot of the ADA issues and things inside of it to begin with. And it's a really nice spot, but it's the only one that I've seen around, and I wasn't quite sure if that fits with what we were talking about, but I guess it does.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say quickly that I'm glad you brought up the Frolic communities. I put the link in the chat because it's worth taking a look. I was almost going to mention it, but there was nothing ADA accessible about it, but it was a great co-housing project in terms of affordability housing. They had low down payments as low as $8,000, and 2 months rent or something, and you're a homeowner in Beacon Hill. And so I would advise looking at that link, and they'd be a great one to reach out to as a developer, Leanne and Mandy, because they're really full, like it's all coming from their heart, and they just need to get, a lot of times the site dictates, but we can for surely, I think they would be really open and receptive to hearing from you.
I think, Eva, you might have just put that in a private chat to one person. I'm not seeing it in the big meeting chat.
Thank you, Eva. And thank you, Leanna.
I have one more suggestion, and it would require the expertise like you and Liana, because you're in that space and you speak with some authority. Is that I've heard that for co-housing projects, that the Housing Trust Fund of the state seems to be more flexible, certainly than the feds. And along with that, there have been community banks that are willing to put it in their portfolio, which again gives more flexibility, right? Because if they have to sell the mortgage on a secondary market, there's no market for it, right? That's where the feds should come in, but it's going to be years before they do that. And if we got a meeting with the Housing Trust Fund, is that something that you could participate in and advocate for ADA and universal design?
I mean, I definitely think our organization would be open to participating. The Housing Trust Fund is a really cool thing. We just had a conversation with Arch, where they, I believe, are also participators in the Housing Trust Fund. So that's definitely something that would love to increase that collaboration because it's a really cool, like you said, institution.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with, especially with Arch involved, maybe they're, they would be open to particularly the seniors. And the beauty about the seniors is that they bring the bucks. They can buy whole houses. And so that's a source of financing that is, I think, quite beneficial because they come with all equity. They don't need a loan. So if you're putting together a portfolio and you have half of them coming with all cash, what bank wouldn't want that loan, right? But of course, it needs to be a bank that doesn't have to sell to the secondary market, and that's where the community banks come in. So if you can put that deal together with a good bunch of Zoomers, coming in with all cash, and then other people that actually need a loan, part of the financing is right there, as long as the Zoomers can be part of like a co-op. But it does take, a lot more advocacy for the Housing Trust Fund or somebody like that to come in with that other half of the money. And before we get cut off, Paul, have you ever seen those elevators that they advertise for single family homes? One floor elevator.
Are you talking like the stair lifts, or are you actually talking like an elevator?
Yeah, it's an elevator.
Yeah. In fact, we actually have two projects under design where we're incorporating those right now, which is really cool. They don't need them. They're just planning for the future.
Got it. And how much do they run?
The elevators themselves start about 30 to 50,000, and then they go up from there depending on like finish and all that. But then you got to build the shaft, and the shaft is where it can get expensive.
Yeah, got it. Okay, well, interesting
As
conversation.
long as you can keep it inside the building, then you're okay. But if you're having to put the elevator on the outside, and then you're having to do foundation and walls and siding and roofing and all that stuff, it can be a couple $100,000 by the time you're done.
Yeah, but if you can get an elevator, then you've like added 100% more floor area.
Right, that's right. Yep.
Unless there's some emergency escape requirement that comes with that.
No, those elevators, the ones we were looking at, they come with so like if it was up on the top floor, it will return like a commercial elevator. It has to return to the bottom floor.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well,
Thank you.
Mandy and
Yeah.
Leon, thank you so much. Very informative. And Eva, you too. Thanks for sticking in there.
Thank you, Pat, for your awesome questions. I really appreciate it. And huge thank you again to our speakers this evening. Again, a recording of this event will be made available via link with closed captioning provided. I'm Nina Olivier. I wear glasses and my hair is up in a bun. And I am just so honored to be to have had the opportunity to have hosted this evening and have learned so much from each of you. Thank you again to Eva, Mandy, Leanna, and Paul for your time this evening and sharing your insights into this really important topic. And thank you to our sponsors again as well, King County Green Tools, Pathway Design and Construction, and 475 High Performance Building Supply.
And thank you for having us. It's really been great to be here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and stop the recording. I'll stick around just for a couple more minutes, just in case anyone has any closing last minute questions. But thanks all. I hope you have a great evening.